Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Pick Up and Play. My name is DJ Switch. I'm the DJ and MC for the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and today my guests are two friends of mine whom I have been hanging out with, having fun with, playing shows with for a little over a decade. And I am really looking forward to getting into the interview. They are hilarious, and this made for probably one of the best, definitely one of the best Patreon segments that I've recorded so far. We get into some really silly stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But before we get into the interview for today, I just want to give a quick shout out to my friends at Vault 31 Bar for hosting yet another successful Lo-Fi Night event. This thing that we're building together, just getting folks together to listen to some lo-fi and play some video games and hang out with each other. It's so much fun, and it's such a nice, chill evening, and there isn't a whole bunch of pressure for people to dance because it's not that kind of music. It's just a really nice time, and I got to give away a couple copies of Super Mario 64 on vinyl from my friends at Kuraga Records, and I added some visuals that went over really well, and I had a really special surprise for everyone. You see, last week, on Monday, before the party on Saturday, so a little bit less than a week before the party, Kuraga announced that they're going to be releasing an Undertale album. And for folks who are not familiar with the Undertale game, one of the shining aspects of that game is absolutely the soundtrack. And so I got very excited when I found out that Kuraga was producing an Undertale album, and I reached out, and they hooked me up with an advanced copy, to my knowledge, one of the only advanced copies, so that I could play the Undertale Lo-Fi album at my Lo-Fi Night for the very first time anywhere. I had the pleasure of debuting that album at my event, and it was such a cool surprise, and it went over extremely well. I was so pleased with how it all went over. And I had people coming up to me all night just saying, "Hey man, that was so cool. Hey man, that was really amazing. Hey man, when's the album out?" So as I understand it, it's going to be available on the 24th, and it's going to be available on vinyl and on cassette, and it's really good, you guys. It's really good. So make sure you check out Undertale Lo-Fi, coming from Kuraga Records very, very soon. Or if you're hearing this after it's been released, then just go check it out. It should be already out. Okay. With all of that out of the way, and of course, with one last massive thank you to everyone who came to my Lo-Fi Night. And don't worry, y'all, we're going to do it again soon. Vault 31 is doing some remodeling, so the schedule is a little bit up in the air, but we'll give them a little time to work on their new space, and then once their schedule settles back down, then we'll figure out another date when we can do our next one. But in the meantime, I've got an excellent interview for you today. These are my friends Sarah Spoon and Chris Waffle, better known as the Chris Waffle Explosion. And they have been doing quite a bit of touring together. They have done not only a lot of musical touring, but they've recently gotten into comedy, and we talked quite a bit about that. And of course, we talked about some video games, including one of my favorite Chris Waffle Explosion songs called PS10, about Chris going to the future to acquire a PlayStation 10 and then bringing it back so that he could review it. And so it's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy my episode with my friends Sarah Spoon and Chris Waffle. Sarah Spoon, Chris Waffle, thank you very, very much for hanging out and taking the time today to do the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Always
absolutely.
happy to jump on for a chat with you.
It's a joy and a pleasure, as always.
They sound like they're kidding, folks, but this is actually two of my oldest friends in nerd music. We've known each other for over a decade at this point. I think I was just talking to I was just talking to V from MagFest about
Oh
how
yeah.
we all met at a Kirby Crackle event in 2013. And it was a lot of fun first of all, watching Kyle and his band tour for his album out at the time, which was one of my favorite albums he did. And then, of course, meeting you guys and then all of the fun stuff that we've all done together since. So I want to talk about all of that stuff in a little bit. But, the very first episode of this podcast, I had one of the most prolific video game collectors in the world, John Hancock, happens to be a friend of mine. He agreed to be my very first guest, and I was so grateful. And he immediately started out the podcast talking about how over the last couple of years, there was a little bit of a struggle because his wife ended up getting sick for a while. And I got a comment on that episode. Somebody comments and goes, well, gee, I think I'll sit down to this comfy video game podcast and, cancer talk. Never mind. Click. I've never deleted a comment faster in my life. But just in honor of that jackass, I think I want to start by asking you, Sarah, how are you doing and how is your recovery going?
Oh man, thanks for asking. I'm doing all right. I've really had a reckoning with this concept that people that are entertainers feel like they have to put on a brave face for everyone else, right? Like we're not allowed to be weak. We're not allowed to make people sad or like, I'm just a clown, really. like that's my job is not, my job. People don't hang out with me for serious talk.
Right.
So, but the truth is like cancer is hard and I'm doing well. I have an incurable cancer, but I'm what they consider no evidence of disease, which is remission-esque. And I have spent, I just finished my breast reconstruction, which is kind of the final leg in the race. Outside of like, I'll be on medication for the rest of my life, at least a decade, maybe the rest of my life. It depends on how treatment changes over time. Yeah. But that's like, and that's its own thing, right? Because it's like cancer is over for everyone except for me. Everyone's like, you're done with chemo, so cancer's behind you, right? And I'm like, no. But I've really tried to focus this last, or probably the whole time really, on what, this sounds so like trite and I hate myself for saying it, but like what gifts I've received from the process and like what my takeaways can be. Cause I can't like cancer is what it is. Like I can't not have cancer. That's not available on this multiple choice test. So right. like what can I do to try and make sure that my life after cancer is as good, even if different ways, than it was before cancer. Like, what does that look like? Because that's what I can control. Like outside of taking my medication, that's what I can control. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing is I hear what you're saying about a lot of entertainers thinking that there's certain things that are off limits or things that they can't talk about. But then as a longtime fan of comedy, like my absolute favorite comedians were guys like Richard Pryor, Tig Notaro, people who took legitimate, absolute tragedies in their lives and found a way to make people laugh in spite of it. And watching you do your stand-up set that you did, because was that your first stand-up set ever that you did?
It's the first set I wrote. It's the second time I performed it. The first time was actually better, to be honest, but I'm happy with it.
Well, the audience was better.
The audience was a little tighter.
The audience was the first show was they had like more to drink or something than the second group, but basically the same.
That's the first set I ever wrote, though. I've never done stand up before.
I'm so proud of you for even doing it in the first place, but also for writing legitimately funny stuff. Because I've known you were funny for a long time, but being funny and then being able to take that funny up on a stage and perform it for people, two totally different things. And so when I saw it, like audience, like stiffened up audience or not, like I could appreciate the writing. I appreciated the jokes. I thought you did an absolutely amazing job. So I'm glad that you're finally here. I've told you that before, but I'm glad you're here. I can tell you that on a recording and now I'll never be able to take it back.
I want to speak to something you said, though, which is like, the whole reason I did stand up is because after I had my double mastectomy and I was going through chemo, I just watched stand up like nonstop. I've always been a fan, but I wouldn't say I was like I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I can't miss a new comedy special is coming out. I can't miss it unless they're like my faves, right? I never really thought out comedy I wasn't familiar with as often because comedy comes in a lot of different forms. And I watched Tig Notaro and I went into it totally blind, had no idea she talked about her breast cancer diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And that was a life-changing moment because I was like, oh, I can choose to rewire the way my brain thinks about this.
Yeah.
Like I can make a conscious choice to find what's weird about it and let the grief be like, grief can walk hand in hand with what makes it the absolutely most absurd human experience on the planet. Right. And, and so I was like, I'm gonna find a therapist first because everyone should be in therapy. I don't care how healthy you are, but I'm also going to try and process some of the cancer trauma through comedy. Like I'm going to try and rewire how I think about it. I'm going to sit in these moments with cancer and look for the absurd, or like, as my comedy mentor says, like the comedy gifts that just like fall in your lap. Right. And I always thought I was pretty quick-witted, but being quick-witted is very different than writing stand-up. And so it was both a creative like journey in learning how to edit and reshape. And you can tell the same joke changing one word, and one time it will be hilarious, one time it'll be all right, and one time it won't be funny at all. And the joke is the same, it's just the word choice, right? And so like going through that really intense, specific, like detail-oriented process was a creative challenge on top of like the added benefit of being able to like rethink my what I went through as a politician, what I went through in cancer, like just that whole world. And then I accidentally fell in love with it. I felt like I was cheating on my husband. I was just like, yeah, that's great, but I got to talk to comedy right now. I'm getting a text. I think I have to work late tonight. Like, right? And I was like running off to do stuff in the evenings. Yeah, I mean, he knew where I was, but like, it kind of became something that I very quickly fell in love with. And I don't know if you know this because we haven't really talked about it, but Chris is doing stand-up now too.
Really?
We're in a three-way with comedy.
Hang on, wait a minute. All right, hold on.
Polycule. Portland, we finally have a polycule. It's me, Chris, and stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So you found room in the marriage to include stand-up comedy in the relationship.
Yeah.
So Chris, tell me about that, man. What are you?
Jealousy is still a thing we're working on, but yeah.
Are you planning a show soon? Like, what's going on with your comedy career all of a sudden?
We do. Well, some say I should have been doing stand-up comedy from the get-go and avoided music. But thank you.
Wait, hang on. Yeah, there it is.
But I was also proud of Sarah, and her stuff was really funny. And we were, as she was developing her set, she would go to me for feedback, and we would kind of workshop things, and it was a lot of fun. And then she started doing some open mics around town, and I would go with her. And some of them I was thinking, I do a lot of like improv, riffing between the songs, when I perform my funny songs. Yeah. And I thought, I could probably go up there and do some funny riffing for 3 minutes and be better than some of these folks. That was in my mind. But so Sarah goes, well, let's do a workshop together. So we did it, and I had a lot of fun, and the feedback was really good. So, I wrote a kind of a 10-minute set that I've been working on. And so we'll be performing actually in Northwest on June 9th with Susan Rice, and it's going to be, we're really excited about it.
Yeah, wow. Fans of local comedy. Susan Rice is like a legend here in the Northwest in general, and Carl Wolfson, who was a hero of mine when he was on Portland Talk Radio. He's hosting and running the show, and it's like a super big honor to be opening for Susan Rice, and so we're both opening. So it's Carl's hosting. Chris and I each are openers separately, not together. And then Susan Rice is headlining, and it's going to be a spectacular show. You can get tickets at Comedy Portland, or is it Portland Comedy? PortlandComedy.com.
PortlandComedy.com, yeah.
PortlandComedy.com.
Right on. Yeah, I'll make sure to include a link as well in the show notes so that folks who want to just have an easy access link will be able to find that. But I know you kind of made a joke about maybe having done comedy instead of music all these years, Chris. But
yeah.
But here's the thing, man. I think that the value of music can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Now, if anyone had ever asked me, is Chris Waffle the greatest bass player I've ever met? Sorry, buddy. That's just not.
Say yes.
The answer. The answer is no. No. But the thing is, like, being a great bass player and then being a great musician are two completely different things. And I've really enjoyed your music, not only through Mega Thruster, but also the Chris Waffle Experience.
Thank you.
Explosion. Excuse me. Chris Waffle Explosion.
There it is.
I knew I was going to do that. And I always do that. I always I'm thinking experience and then I say explosion and then I'll think explosion and say experience. Like, I keep doing that in my brain. But but this CD, which you sent me, you both are featured as part of this project. And that amazing back photo, by the way, is still one of my all-time favorites of you two.
Shout out to Beth Olson Photography on that one.
Oh, Beth did that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah,
Beth.
she did the photo shoot for the. It's the inside picture is my favorite. When you open up the CD, that's the best one.
That is
actually one. You know what? Just like give me 2 seconds, because I swear I just. Yeah. So funny enough, Beth Olson and I have something coming up in August.
The big
splash. Big splash.
I know. We are getting tickets. I know when tickets go on sale. Beth and Garrett are dear friends of ours. And then I met Heather English yesterday, who's involved as well. And she had mentioned, I think was that how we found it? I don't know. Someone talked about it. Heather English is another great comic. Beth Olson,
so you guys found out. I literally just sent the contract like 5 minutes before we jumped on the recording just now.
Oh, it was up on the webpage. Because I was like, when are tickets?
Well, I mean, I
went
agreed.
Last year.
I agreed to it, and I'm super down for it. I'm like really looking forward to it.
It's so much fun.
Like
it's fun.
The paperwork stuff's a formality at this point, but I am absolutely stoked to be working with Beth on the Big Splash this year.
Excellent.
Beth.
Yeah, we went last year. It was a blast. Sarah wasn't feeling good because of the chemo, so we didn't have as much fun as I think we're gonna have this time. Because Sarah will be feeling better. She has new boobs. And it'll be wild.
I don't care if I'm attending a funeral this summer. Strictly plunge necklines. I went through a lot to get these, and I mean, you're just going to be lucky if I don't flash you. I don't have nipples anymore, so I can. It could just happen at any time.
Legally, it's allowed.
It's like
just get your mileage out of them as much as possible.
Yeah.
Until either you're sick of it or there's like legal fines involved.
I will never get sick of it.
Here's the thing. I know that about you, and I love that about you. This is part of the reason why, like, it's so, I think, interesting to talk about your experience with your recovery and your experience with how you've sort of dealt with it in the sort of post-chemo part of your life, turning to comedy, turning to music, turning to entertainment, taking that tragedy and turning it into a way to connect with people and make people laugh and make people enjoy themselves. Like, I have such tremendous respect for that. And there are so few people, even after, 25 plus years in entertainment, there's still so few people that I've truly met that would have, I think reacted in the way that you reacted. And it's really, really like incredible to see, incredible to watch. And it's frankly, it's kind of like cool that I get to say, oh yeah, by the way, they're also friends of mine.
You're the
and to like brag on you a little bit and be like, yeah, I totally know them. Like, and they're doing amazing, like, so, your journey,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
I know this is a video game podcast. We for sure need to talk about video games a little bit. But I think I want to kind of circle back a little bit to Mega Thruster, which I mentioned very briefly. Now, Chris, I know you and Joel have come back together somewhat recently for like a reunion show kind of thing. Is that a one-off, or are you guys doing more stuff together, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's never been in a official hiatus. You know, the pandemic. Yes. I'm sure this is a lot of people's experiences, especially creatively. The pandemic. We were. I felt like we had some good momentum going, and then the pandemic came and shut down everything we had going on.
Oh,
in,
dude, same.
2020. We had a lot of cool shows lined up that I'm still bummed about these years later, but because he had very small kids at home, our family is at home, everyone was trying to hunker down and be safe. It was hard for us really to get together and do anything new. We started working on, we did continue to kind of make songs. I would record my parts here, send it to him, he would do his parts, but there were no shows. And I think so. It wasn't ever like an official hiatus. We just kind of slowed down.
Right.
And we put out an EP last fall that I'm really proud of, but it was still hard to kind of do any music videos or shows for it, really, between Sarah's surgeries and taking care of her and everything Joel had going on with his other band. So it's just, I think, I will also say this, I talked to Christian Lipsky from PDX Broadsides about this when we were writing a musical together last year. But I really feel like with that Portland nerdy music scene that it's like what we met you through, and we were playing those nerd camp shows, and the double clicks were in full force up here, and all that stuff was going on. I felt like, that scene is kind of gone, and I'm not sure it's ever to return. It's just a lot of music scenes, right? Grunge in Seattle didn't last forever. It lasted for a few years, and then people move on to other things. And I think, which is why I called the Mega Thruster EP "Nerd Music is Dead." Satirically, like I don't really think that, but it's what it feels like since the pandemic. And a lot of the people who are fans of that kind of music are traditionally, are the more safe ones. They're still not feel like, they still don't feel like they want to go out in public all the time. The coronavirus is still here. So I totally get that. But anyway, what was your question? Mega Thruster.
So what's Mega Thruster got going on now?
So we just played Mid-Valley Comic-Con at the Salem Fairgrounds.
My Ghostbusters were down there.
Fun. Yes.
With the Portland Ghostbusters.
We were right across. Our booth was right across from them.
Days.
Their Ecto one is awesome. We were talking to them. They were showing me all the gear, and that was a lot of fun. We were just right across the way from them. But we have another EP that we have another set of songs for the part 2 of the EP. Hopefully will come out this year. And it's just really hard. There isn't, I feel, we're not funny, like funny enough to do like comedy shows. Some of our songs are funnier than others.
Okay, sure.
And we're not, and the amount of venues that closed over the course of the pandemic, it's really competitive now just to try to get a show.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't make it. And so to have, here's an acoustic nerd rock duo, it's a little difficult. And then like, we don't fit in with the other stuff going on because, there isn't that nerdy music scene. It kind of evaporated, I feel like a little bit. And some of that was me too. Like we also weren't doing anything. So we'll see. I mean, it's always just kind of there, I think, when the inspiration strikes us.
I think, I think you're absolutely right. I think the nerd music scene sort of like by and large has been shifting and changing quite a bit. As has the overall sort of nerd culture. It was a really sort of special, unique thing for a long time until it was so special and so unique that everyone was a part of it, and then there was nothing special or unique about it. And then, I mean, that's one of those like, it's one of those kind of like a problem of its own making. You know, it got so popular that all of a sudden it was just like not cool anymore.
Right.
Which is really ironic coming from nerds, right?
Yeah.
But I think if we're going to be fair, and I'm going to be a little bit controversial for a second, like I think some people remember that nerd scene more fondly than others.
Sure. No, absolutely.
I will say that as a woman, it was a real struggle and continues to be. Like, it's exhausting. And it's like, I do think that there's a component of been like, if you've been pushed to the margins in some capacity, like socially, like nerds have been for the entire time we were growing up.
Right.
And some of them are not mentally in a great place. There is a propensity to then become kind of the bully or take the power, like try and grab that agency back at the expense of other people. That happens in all communities, but seeing it happen in the nerd community is particularly painful because what brought us all together was that we were all shoved to the margin socially. Right. Yeah. And then like, so yes, there was something really special about it, but it was also super problematic in a lot of ways. It
had its problems for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say real quick too, and that some of that feeling jaded me a little bit. And some of the songs I was writing towards the end of Mega Thruster were kind of commenting on that and being fed up with, I had a song that hasn't come out yet, but I called it Geek's Existential Crisis, where it's like, well, I was so proud to be a nerd, but now it's like, and then it kind of became toxic in many ways, or maybe it always was, and I just never realized it. Then at that point it's like, is this that fun anymore? It's like, I don't know. That's why.
But I'll add that I think the spaces and events that, at least in Portland, have stayed in place have become better because there was an awareness and acknowledgement of the toxicity. Like the events that are happening are significantly better than they were 10 years ago. Right. Yeah. There's just fewer of them.
No, I absolutely agree. And that's, part of the reason why I was so excited to partner with Vault 31, for example, who sponsors this show now. You walk into Vault 31 and immediately hanging from the ceiling, you see a big old rainbow flag, and a big sign that says everyone is welcome here. And they're very loud about it. When I started my first podcast back in 2009, it was based on a gaming culture column that I had written in college for my newspaper. And so when I started that podcast, it was incredibly important to at least have one woman on the staff, have someone that was co-hosting that was not born assigned male at birth. Right. Just so that at least the representation was there. Now, did we agree on everything? No. But the one thing that we did agree on was that toxicity, absolutely existed in nerd spaces, and B, although it wasn't exclusive to nerd spaces, Sarah, I think you hit the nail absolutely on the head when you said that it sort of felt different because what brought us together in the first place partially was the way that we were ostracized from the sort of mainstream cool communities and cliques, right? So I completely hear you and I completely agree with you. That being said, I think that there was, although some folks might have had a different experience with it, 15 years ago than others, there was absolutely something special there. And I think that part of the reason why sort of what we identify as nerd culture, animation, sci-fi movies, video games, all of that stuff got so popular and so prevalent because of, I think, the part of, things go through these cycles of being kind of niche cool and then being niche cool with some mainstream acknowledgement, and then eventually becomes so mainstream that it's not cool anymore. I think Portland is kind of going through that and has been for the last 20 years. Portland was just kind of it was a pretty good sized city, but not competing with Seattle or anything. And then all of a sudden, here comes this TV show about Portland and how silly it is. And now everybody wants to move to Portland. And now our roads are constantly jammed up because so many people are moving here. And it's such a cool place to live And those of us that like grew up here are just like, can we be done being popular now? Like we're kind of over it. So I see it sort of like outside of the nerd space too. I've seen it in hip hop. I've seen it just about everywhere. And the thing that I've found, and again, coming from like a straight white dude, so like let's all take this with a big grain of salt. But the thing that I've found is that that toxicity sucks everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was nice to hear you sort of like identify why it sucks more for nerds. Cause again, I agree with that. I think, you know, nerds sort of like feel that a little bit more. And it's part of the reason why nerds tend, in my view, and myself included, tend to like drift into the realm of fantasy more. Cause they're, you know, that whole escapism thing, as like a reaction to that. And then it's sort of like, oh, I escape into this. Oh man, I escape into this too. And then, you know, whether it's Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever it is, you know, it's just kind of like, that's what brings us together.
Yeah, I think
It is.
we have the benefit and joy of being in a lot of different communities, whether that's like politics or now comedy. And we've just always had a lot of hobbies, and every single one of those communities is toxic in some way or another. Like broken people find each other and are broken together. Right. And like, and that's true. But I think what I will say, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but I feel like the cons, I feel like the businesses, I feel like the content creators that are not like YouTube analysts who like go off on, like, you know, people have podcasts, not like you all. I'm just joking. But everyone else, like, I think that the people that are making the TV and movies and making the video games and making the music and whatnot, like, they're doing good work to improve. It's the fans are a little bit of a struggle still sometimes for me. And I say that as a fan, right? Which is like, you're so passionate about something. And like all fandoms are like this, whether you're in sports or whatever. But there are people that are like, their fandom is so centric to their identity that they can't possibly tolerate another opinion or like another perspective, because it's like so enmeshed in who they are and how they identify and what they spend all their money and time doing. And like, how dare you not like see the world the same way they do? But I think there's good work being done, and like we're making progress.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, as nerd culture was becoming pop culture, you know, over the past 10, 15 years, you know, I feel, you mentioned Star Wars, you know, I felt like Obi-Wan looking at Anakin Skywalker, he's like rolling around in the lava saying, why are you doing this? You were the chosen one, you know, and just being like, ugh. Now I'm going to go live in the desert alone. I think part of it too is I think social media plays a huge part in it. You know, I think, you know, rage clicks are a huge thing. Everyone's trying to get views and likes and follows as a currency, and being an ass, being, you know, contrary, and trying to have a hot take on something to get those views, you know, even if it means being a jerk and crapping on people that, you know, like stuff is, you know, a huge thing. You know, I liked The Last Jedi a lot, and people just hate it. And I get a lot of comments on some of my old songs that are just like shredding me, you know, and I don't know. I like a lot of stuff, you know, I don't have to hate on things to make. Now, I will say this, when I was younger, I would do a lot of songs that I thought were not punching down, that I was like, you know, making fun of stuff, you know, and things like that. But, you know, when I was doing that, nerd culture was really on the outs. You did not want to be a nerd, you know, at all, you know. So
it wasn't cool, man.
I was making fun of myself, really. But now that it's not that way, it's hard to be, you know, some kind of victim when what you like is what everybody likes. Right. everybody loves. I'm not going to say everybody, but like the majority of the population is into the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how can you be a put upon nerd if everybody's enjoying what you enjoy now?
Yeah, well, I think that kind of speaks to a little bit of what Sarah was talking about, in that, being ostracized or being othered is, not exclusive to just Trekkies. It's not exclusive to just the Jedis among us, right? Like if you're ostracized for a thing that you like, maybe these days it's anime. Maybe these days it's, whatever the thing is that you're into, whatever subculture that you're into, if it's not cool and people make fun of you for it, that's kind of what being a nerd has always been. And that's sort of what I've found. I have a nephew who's in his early 20s. I have a niece that isn't even a teenager yet. And seeing what they're into and what their friends are into, and seeing what's kind of like popular with them, but then also seeing what's not popular. Like my niece is grinding her way through over 1,000 episodes of One Piece, the animated series right now. And she's super hyped about it. But I know not all of her friends are doing that. And so the sort of good news here, the positive takeaway for me at least, is that I know that although not all of her friends are doing that 1,000 episode grind with her, they are at least being supportive that she's into that. And that to me is really endearing and a really like positive takeaway for what the future holds. Cause I mean, these 100%. Kids are really figuring that shit out.
Yeah. This is where I take 15 seconds to tell everyone that Gen Z is going to save the world. And they are the first gen. They're my favorite. They're the best, but they're also, we have 4 Gen Z kids. Yeah. And so we get to witness it from, our oldest is 24 and our youngest is going to be 16 this week. And
you're watching it point blank.
And this is what is different about them that I have not seen in any other collective generation. They very much value kindness. Mm-hmm. Right. And just not being an asshole. And like,
whoa. You don't see that in baby boomers?
Sorry, Mom. But
hang on, let me mute him real quick.
I was talking to a friend of mine about how like it's simple things, like how impressed I am with how Gen Z handles like breakups.
Yeah.
Or like challenges in relationships, friendships, right? In like a way that I was not taught to do. Like at all. Just treat everyone with respect and kindness, and that is deeply valued by Gen Z in a way that I think, like, imagine if we all were raised in a generation that valued kindness and respect, which isn't to say there aren't problems, but it's I have not seen anything like it before in a way that I'm like just so impressed with.
Yeah. I study Gen Z a lot for my day job. And, Sarah said that our youngest is 16, and there is really a thread of inclusivity that I think we haven't seen before in this country, where hey, what are you into? I'm into X. What are you into? I'm into Y. Oh, that's cool. And it's not, well, why do you like this, punch? Which is what it was like when I was growing up, like not exaggerating.
Right. I know you're not.
Yeah. So that's, that's something very encouraging. Just wanted to echo what Sarah said. I believe that's very true.
Well, and I know that sort of like violent response was a big part of your experience, Chris. I guess, for lack of a term, was lucky enough that I was a pretty big kid. I was almost 6 feet by the time I was a freshman in high school. And so like, I didn't encounter a lot of people that were brave enough to throw a punch. But words hurt. Yeah. And I will leave it at that. And I was just never that guy to, like try and fight back. I was never that guy to go out there and look for that opportunity to, as the common phrase is now, punch down. And when you're 6 feet tall at 14 years old, all of your punches are down.
Literally.
So it's, so for me, it was, that's where, discovering things like Legend of Zelda, discovering things like the Star Wars universe. I liked Star Wars. I thought the lasers were cool. But then when I was in high school, I read the books. And that's where I went from, oh, this is pretty cool, to, no, this is my life now. I'm gonna model my philosophies and my personality around the lessons that I'm learning in this deeply impressive saga that has a lot to do with something that's happening in the modern world, even though it takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right?
Yep.
I want to take a quick break because we do need to take an ad break, and shout out to our friends at Vault 31. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about both of your experience with video gaming and how you came to video games, and what some of that has been like for you all since kind of getting involved in the sort of like public event space in the gaming world. So we'll be right back. Folks, this episode has once again been sponsored by my friends at Vault 31 Bar. Just 10 minutes north of the Portland airport, Vault 31 is a video game themed bar built for absolutely everyone who loves gaming and geek culture. They offer an incredible selection of beverages and signature cocktails alongside tons of PC and console games available to play. And if you're hungry, they've got plenty of food available from their kitchen, including house-made pizzas, Smurshbergs, and all kinds of deliciously themed options. Anyone who's caught past episodes of this show knows that Vault 31 is all about inclusivity and wants to make sure that absolutely everyone is welcome. As part of their ongoing efforts to make sure they are a space for all gamers, they recently announced that they've purchased the space next door and will be renovating it into an all-ages coffee bar and lounge space so that even the under 21 folks will find safe harbor here. As if that wasn't enough, Vault 31 hosts all kinds of community events, including mini painting, tournaments, pride events, and is currently the home of my newest monthly lo-fi event, but you'll have to follow myself and Vault 31 on socials to find out more about that. Speaking of socials, you can visit them at vault31bar.com or at Vault31Bar on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and Twitch. Or honestly, just visit them in person. I promise there's no cryopods or vacuum cleaners with a human brain attached. If you know, you know. This place is freaking great. And if you're looking for a space that feels like home away from your nerd cave, Vault 31 is that place for me. Just tell them DJ Switch said hi. With that, let's get back to the show.
What's it say? Nexi Go, Nexigo.
Oh, okay.
4K Ultra something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The lights that I'm using were $50.
I have like lights. I just don't have them set up because I haven't, like we were talking about, for about a year and a half, it's been mostly cancer stuff. Although we did do a lot.
Yeah, y'all been busy.
we did do a lot of rapping, and we went to Nerdcore Days. We went to Austin. We went to Mag West. So we did a lot of rapping.
We did VGM. We went to VGM Con last year too.
In Minneapolis. Yeah, we did a lot of traveling and rapping, but
I mean, rapping. Like,
yeah.
Well, so
musical performance.
That funny you should touch on that, because that's kind of what I wanted to get into in the second half here. So you have been doing a little bit of traveling and doing some shows outside of Portland. What's that experience been like for you, especially kind of operating in the nerdcore space, which is a little bit different for both of you? How's that been going?
Yeah, can I start, Chris? I know you can kind of tell the origin story a little bit, which is pretty important to how we got here. But first, I just want to say, we know who we are. We're in on the joke. We respect the hip hop culture so much, and we deeply understand that we're visitors in the space. It's not our space, but we are so elated to be invited in when it's appropriate for the moment to play in that space, because it's beautiful and it's amazing. And it is hands down, of all these subcultures or niche scenes we've been in, the absolute best group of people. Like it is so like life reaffirming. And
Yeah.
like and the way that this community really embraces the idea of being a family is like inspired. And so before we say too much, I just want to make it clear is like as white people in this space, we know we're visitors. We don't think hip hop belongs to us. We will play in it as long as we're welcome and it's appropriate and we continue to like to bring joy and not harm, you know, but I just want to preface everything we say with that because I think it's really important to acknowledge that it's not our space.
I mean, I feel you there. I was literally this past Saturday, I was at my MC's album release party. And I haven't been able to do a lot of events since the pandemic with my MC because, well, partly because pandemic, there just haven't been a lot of shows the last couple of years. But also during the full lockdown in 2020, my MC got really involved in sync licensing. And so a lot of the newer music he's been producing under alternate names. He's been producing with different producers and different labels and for the purpose of selling commercially. And so this is his first full album project that he's released since moving his career in the direction of doing more sync license stuff. This is finally it's his thing. And getting together with a bunch of our friends in the hip hop community of Portland. DJ OG1 was there, the Portland Trailblazers DJ. He was sort of like co-hosting the event, but also he like helped produce the project for my MC.
Yeah, he's an icon.
They've known each other for a long time. I know you guys know Mighty. And so it was incredible to like hang out with OG1. Because he and I have known each other for years now at this point. And I just have such a tremendous amount of respect for him. A lot of our guest artists that have been on the projects that we've worked on, like they all showed up. And so like even being that deeply ingrained in the hip hop space and not like, and I know you guys do like comedy music, but like the hip hop work that I've done in my career has never been comedy. It's always been very serious and very competitive. And I still, you know, have only been able to do what I've done because I've been able to acknowledge that it doesn't matter how far I go or what I do. I am still a visitor in someone else's house and I need to keep my feet off the table. And so, yeah, I resonate really deeply with that point of view, but I am a little bit curious. I know Chris, you mentioned something about maybe telling the origin story of how the explosion came to be. So what happened there?
Yeah, I had done a couple of comedy raps way back in the, you know, early 2000s with some other comedians and stuff. But I mean, it's always been an art form that I've taken very seriously and have really enjoyed. I really like a wide array of different type of musical styles. And I think making them humorous allows me to dip my toe into different, where it's I can do a, you know, a country song or, you know, a heavy metal song or a pop song or a hip hop song. You know, I really love exploring all those different genres. But when we were talking about Mega Thruster earlier and that was all shut down, Sarah and I were just at home and I was really looking for a creative outlet. You know, everything, we had that momentum and then it came to a screeching halt.
And I think too, like some artists were able to like, oh, I have a guitar, I'm going to do a Zoom show. But like Chris plays bass. It's like, what's he gonna do? A full set on bass?
You already described how I play bass earlier, so it's like this isn't gonna work.
Listen, if Spinal Tap could do it.
So we were our mutual friend Bill Beats was you know, putting some of his beats up for sale, you know, and saying, hey, you know, you got some beat, and I was listening to some of the beats. I was like, I think I can make a rap song out of this. And so then I asked Sarah to do some stuff on it, and it just really grew from there. We ended up kickstarting our first album, and it went well over the goal. And so it seemed like something people were into, or at least were excited for us to be into. And and we had a really great album release party at Dante's, which I thought was a lot of fun. And then after that, you know, I was really trying to connect more into that nerdcore scene. I'm a fan, of many of the artists.
Yeah.
And but in the meantime, we decided to I don't know, why did I have this idea, Sarah? Do you remember? I was like, let's just go and perform our raps at like a regular hip hop show in Portland and see how it goes.
I was really scared because I am not good. Like, it's one thing to roll up and be like, I'm good, I'm gonna hold my own. I was like, I am bad and no one knows me. so like this is
Yeah, it was like 3 songs. I was like, we were walking up to the door and I said, look, people are either gonna get it and laugh with us, or they're gonna hate it, and if they hate it, we'll run out the door and just go home, and we'll never do it again.
I was like, good thing they laughed with us because neither of us are fast runners.
Yeah, for sure.
But the
people
in the Portland hip hop scene, top notch. Not only is there spectacular hip hop talent in Portland, just amazing.
I think the country is really sleeping on the scene here for sure.
Yeah,
the rest of the country.
But outside of that, like sometimes you meet people who are so gifted at what they do, and they know they're gifted, and they get a lot of accolades from the people around them, and like it gets to their head, right? And they don't. There are a lot of communities where it's like they don't even want to learn your name until you've proven yourself, right? Like you have to like earn your. That was not our experience at all here. Everyone was just so kind, and like just the community of just getting together. And so many of them are like, you know, that it was awesome.
And dancing and laughing along with our song about minivans and hot tubs. And, you know, everybody's like, you know, they're laughing, we're laughing at ourselves, you know, and it was a good time. It was really, when we went back for the, you know, 3rd or 4th one and people were remembering the chorus and the hooks and stuff, I was like, this is crazy, you know, because the rest of them are generally good rappers, you know. I think one night they had like some kind of a cipher or like what was that one? Remember, Sarah? There was like a cipher. There was like they were doing just like freestyles. And I was like, I can't freestyle. I'm not going up there. And then I just kept drinking. And then it was getting later. And like, I had a couple of drinks and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try it. I immediately got off the beat. I did 4 bars, got off the beat, went, oh shit. And then just like walked away and then like left. I never did it again.
Yeah, the cypher stuff, you know, DJs have something similar. We've got like, you know, scratch meetups and stuff. And you know, I've been able to scratch for years and I feel like I do okay, but I see clips of like the scratch meetups that go on down at like Platinum Records, for example. And I, you know, I don't think I have the guts. I just don't think I could do it. I don't know.
It's tough, you know, but the fact that some of these, you know, these really talented artists that we're sharing the stage with from time to time, we haven't actually gone out in a little bit, but we did a lot last year when Sarah was feeling okay. And the fact that they shared the stage, you know, with us so graciously and seemed to have a good time was really helpful for us. And it gave us the confidence to go and do, you know, go out to Mag West, you know, in San Jose last year, go out to Minneapolis for VGM Con, go out to Nerdcore Days in Austin just a couple months ago, and share the stage with some of those Nerdcore artists that I really admire. And they were everyone was awesome. And we had the same experience with them. And that was just a great week in Austin, especially.
It's particularly interesting because we are first and foremost fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like spend my weekends fangirling now and just being like, I can't believe these people are letting me hang out with them.
We're like buying all their merch. We're like, we come home with all these albums, you know, we're like, I have all this vinyl. We're like buying their merch. And like, we're, you know, I'm like, well, I'm just here to see the show. And they're like, aren't you going on later? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
I gotta give a big shout out to Vince, also known as DJ Rockman, who puts on the Nerdcore Days out there in Austin. That is my dude. I love that guy. And he's doing such great things for the nerdcore community, not just in Austin, but like nationwide. Like if you're a fan of nerdy hip hop music and you should absolutely be following what DJ Rockman is doing. because the shows that he's producing, the people that he's playing with, the work that he does with the NPC, like absolutely fantastic work. So like shout out DJ Rockman, that's my dude.
He's amazing.
I want to talk about a couple of really specific songs on here. First of all, you called out.
Well, I want to say real quick also,
please.
shout out to everyone that we met at Nerdcore Days. We had such a great time and everyone was so cool. And it was awesome to sing my verse about Richard Branson in Minivan, but Richie Branson was actually there. And so I got to point to him and mention him. But also Swell Rel has changed my life, because after I met Swell Rel and he was talking about and showing off his Crocs, we came home and went to the Woodburn Outlet Mall. There's a Crocs store, and we came home with like 6 pairs of Crocs, and now I'm all into Crocs.
Let the record state, I had been trying to get Chris to buy a pair of Crocs for like a few years now, because I got a pair and I was like, is this what like Technicolor living is? It just made my life infinitely better from the get. And he wanted nothing to do with it. And then Swell Rel's like, I love Crocs. And then Chris is like, I think we should go to the Crocs store.
Well, I mean, you're not as cool as Swell Rel.
That's true. No one is.
Oh, dang.
No one is. No one is.
No one is.
Like one of the coolest
also, big shout out to, before we move on, to Bill Beats and Shubzilla. They're on fire right now. Like, not literally, like their career's on fire.
Yeah.
And we're trying to work on album number 2, but they're too busy. They're always on tour. And Bill Beats comes back to town. I'm like, let's record the album. And he's like, okay. And he's like, wait, no, I'm on tour with even more important people.
And it's AAPI History Month. Go pay Shubs. Give her some money. Listen to her listen to her art. Support women of color in this. Yeah.
Okay, that ends the shout outs for now.
No, that's all right. That's all right, guys. That's all right. So you already kind of referenced your song "Middle Aged Man in a Hot Tub." I'm looking down at the CD just to make sure I get the titles right. So "Middle Aged Man in a Hot Tub" was like one of the funniest songs on the album easily, and the video for that, it's just
sexy, right? It's
priceless.
Me in a hot tub.
Absolutely priceless. Your song "Minivan," I wanted so badly to be there when you guys shot the video for that, and I tried so hard, and I'm so sorry I missed it.
No,
you guys looked like you had so much fun.
We had it was the Oregon weather. We had it was raining. The first date we had it, the film, the schedule, what do you call it? The filming date was on a day, and then all of a sudden rain came, and they didn't want to film in the rain. And then we rescheduled, and it was really nice. But then, like, most of the people who could have come to the first date couldn't. So no, that was a bummer.
You've got a song on here called "What's a Naruto."
always a crowd pleaser. Always a crowd pleaser at the right.
I want to bring it back to my nerd homies, right? So what's a Naruto? But then and then you've got a couple other ones on here, including I think probably my favorite on the track is PS10.
It's one of my favorites.
Can you tell me a little bit about like what is the song PS10 about, just to give the people listening to this an idea of like what they can expect from your album and from your sense of humor?
Yes. There's like what I'm trying to do by making that song, but there's actually what it's about. What it's about is I traveled to the future and got a PS10,
a PlayStation 10.
A PlayStation 10. Yeah, we're on PS5 right now. I went to the future, got a PS10, brought it back to today, and the song is my review of everything it can do, and it can do a lot of crazy stuff that you would not expect.
Such as
it makes nachos.
Oh, wow. I think inspired by, do you remember the Kentucky Fried Chicken computer that had an air fryer?
The computer that can make fried chicken. I remember that thing. Yeah.
That was kind of part of the inspiration too, but what else can it do? It like no controllers. It just like goes into your brain.
You just play it with your
leaving it hands free when, So there's a lot of that in the song.
If you want to play online, it's 800 teraflops a month.
No, it's $800 for PlayStation.
That's right.
Live. What's it called? PlayStation
PlayStation Plus.
Plus, yeah. Yeah, you might think it's sus that PlayStation Plus is only $800 a month, but in the future, that amount is just normal.
Right.
And then
that's a Netflix subscription in the future.
Yeah, it has like the
With
graphics are
commercials.
like 8 billion teraflops or something, and it's what else can it do? It does there's no loading screens anymore.
Yeah.
And none of the old games none of the games are backwards compatible still though.
Right.
They still haven't cracked that nut.
Yeah. Listen, I can't thank you both enough for the support that you've shown me and shown my podcast projects, and I'm so happy every time that we get together and hang out. Like, it's always such a blast. Before we wrap the show, is there anybody else that you want to shout out, or is there like maybe a place where people can find your work, find you, follow what you're doing in comedy or in music?
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, we've got a new rap album in the works at some point when Bill Beats gets back into town and can finish up our beats. We got that going. Sarah is blossoming as a comedian, and now I'm doing it too, but I'm more like wilting and withering. But we're both having fun. And so I will give a shout out to Comedy Sports on Northwest Kearney Street. And so we're going to do a couple of showcase and the show that we mentioned. And a huge shout out to V and all of her work with MagFest and MagWest. And you may see us around doing that. And what else, Sarah?
I am, of course, a huge fan of Shubzilla, like as a human, as the work she's doing in the space to make sure the space is safe for other women and people of color. I am a huge fan of Prowess the Testament.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Again, pure talent.
Prowess is incredible.
Talent. So I'll give it up for those two. And then you can find me at Sarah Spoon Comedy. I'm trying to learn how to do things on social media. So eventually there may be content. Also, I'll leave it at that.
You can find us if you got all of our music videos, and we also occasionally do a travel vlog around Oregon and all that. If you look up the Chris Waffle Explosion on YouTube, you'll see all those videos. And on Instagram, Sarah Spoon Comedy and the real Chris Waffle, except no substitutes. And I was going to say something else, but I messed the show up with my pen, so I don't remember.
No, you're okay, buddy. Well, thank you both very much for doing the show and for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it.
You're the best.
Thanks for having us, sir.
Yeah.
I have to give a huge thanks to my friends Sarah Spoon and Chris Waffle for coming on the show today, for supporting the things that I've done in the past, for continuing to support me much in the way that I try absolutely to support them, because I love what they're doing. And I love that they're doing it together. They're so disgustingly cute as a couple. And it's just really fun to be friends with them and to hang around with them. One story we didn't get into was several years ago. I actually went up to Seattle to see all of our mutual friend Kyle play with his band Kirby Crackle. And we were there at the Hard Rock Cafe in Seattle, and we were all there a little early. And so while they were doing sound check upstairs, I went downstairs to get some dinner. And as I'm sitting there getting some dinner, in walks Sarah and Chris, and we sat and had an incredible dinner together at the Hard Rock Cafe in Seattle before going upstairs to watch an amazing nerdy performance from Kirby Crackle, from Word Burglar. It was such a fun night, and it's a memory that I will absolutely cherish from my friendship with Sarah and Chris. So if you want to see even more, I promise you, this is the time to jump on the Patreon. This clip from this episode that I've got over on Patreon is so fun. We talk about how soup is just wet salad. And we talk about how women on the internet are choosing bears, encountering a bear in the woods over a man. But then Sarah gets into this whole bit about cartoon bears and how cartoon bears are the exception, and she wouldn't want to be encountering a cartoon bear, and then continues to like rip apart cartoon bears. It's so good. And it's so fun. And it's only on my Patreon. So go to patreon.com/TJSwitchPDX if you want to see and hear and experience what an unchecked, what an unhinged conversation that turned out to be. It was a great time. In the meantime, I want to thank you all for sticking it out through this episode, for subscribing. If you have subscribed to the YouTube channel, I want to thank you for that as well. Of course, this show is available on YouTube and Spotify, and I will see you again very soon with the very next episode of Pick Up and Play. Thanks.